Hello guys, welcome back to Christian Finance for your almost daily financial content. And today I want to talk about big time investor and someone that I personally look up to in the space, Michael Burry, and his prediction right now that we're going to be experiencing a much further crash than what we have experienced so far. And as you guys will see in a little bit, just like Shema from the previous video, I actually end up agreeing with all of the points being made here. So this right here is his official Twitter, and as we can see here, he has the S&P 500 2001 from a dot-com bubble crash. This is what happened. We kept going up a few times and then crashing lower a few times when everyone thought that the crash was no longer going to persist. And here we have the exact same thing he's predicting. Right now we're about here compared to 2001 chart, and he's saying that we're essentially going to go much lower than we are right now. Just before I continue with the video, I just want to ask you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, press the notification button, so this way you guys get notified every time I upload. Once again, only thing I ask guys, subscribe to the channel. So right here, if we take a look at a zoomed out version of the Dow Jones, which is for about a year, we'll see here's when we hit the bottom in June. Then we had that nice little recovery when everybody thought that the crash would be over. However, based on all the evidence and all the macroeconomic factors going on right now, including what Michael Burry, Shamath Palihapitiya, and just the overall conditions of the macroeconomic situation pretty much in the whole world. This is not financial advice, but it's looking like we're gonna go lower in the short to midterm, right, than that previous all-time low in June. And right here is another Michael Burry one, actually from a few days ago, and he says, and yet I keep getting asked when crash, and I mean here as we can see, it's already happening quite heavily. And obviously this is a more zoomed out version from 5 years ago, but as we can see in the grand scheme of things, the crash is happening and it very likely will go below the June low that we had 2 months ago. And if we take a look at the Bitcoin, it's even more extreme, right? Obviously from 6 months ago, we had here where it almost hit 50,000, and then we had the all-time low in June. We had that little recovery, and now we're likely gonna go back below that 17,000 that Bitcoin had been at about 2 months ago. And another Michael Burry tweet, which more or less again says the same thing. The S&P completed a 22% 2-month rally, the Nasdaq 43% rally. S&P fell 42%, the Nasdaq fell 48%. So if we go based on that history, we're supposed to be going 40 to 50% lower than where we were in that June low, which is really crazy and scary to think about if we're actually gonna match the exact percentages as we did back in the 2001 crash. Now I want you guys to know that obviously I don't want this to happen. However, I have been predicting with all my videos more or less that we're gonna see a further recession and that the crash and bear market is not even close to being over. If you can go through the channel, you'll see countless times me saying that in different variants. It is just that the macroeconomic situation right now is really tough. In certain cases we have supply shortages, in others we have supply surpluses. We have massive inflation. In the US it's much better than it is in Europe. Right, the euro's been hit much harder than the US dollar, as bad as it's been in the US, right? Also, we have the increase in interest rates, which is also not a good sign for the short term. We still have the war, as well as obviously the China economic conflict, as well as uncertainties there, what's going to happen there between them and Taiwan. We still have the pandemic looming around, not completely gone. But the good news is now is the time to do research into your high conviction plays. And I'm actually going to make a video on my high conviction stocks and investments in general for the recession. That would be a great time to get into and start to have a dollar cost average plan. Now, when I come up with that video, I don't want you guys to take my word for it and just start investing there. I just want you to use that as a guide. Then you can have some good stocks in mind, but then you can go and do your own research to make sure that you're comfortable and you're in a position where you're actually able to invest safely and comfortably for the long run, right? I always recommend, if you're a long-term investor, which most beginners should be, make sure you don't need the money at least for the next 3 to 5 years, right? Because we cannot predict the shortcomings in the beginning. It's always going to be up, down, up, down. We're always going to go up high. Because in the short run, we're always going to go and be unpredictable. We're always going to be unpredictable. Whether it's going to go up or down, we cannot predict. But if you're investing in a good, well-researched stock, commodity, index fund, or in crypto, the only one I recommend for beginners is Bitcoin. But if you're investing in those, then you're in a good position for the long run. Okay, with that guys, the video is over. Let me know what you thought about this down below. Do you think Michael Burry is correct and we're gonna be in a further crash? Or do you think that the markets will eventually recover in the near term and that we're gonna go back close to all-time highs? And I'm laughing a little bit because I think the second option is a bit ridiculous just based on what I'm seeing and how I'm seeing everything being played out. But again, I'd love to hear your guys' perspective Please let me know other similar content you'd like me to do next in the financial space. Subscribe to the channel. And as always, guys, stay diversified.